Life didn't just challenge you, it shattered you. People you trusted betrayed you. Opportunities collapsed, plans failed, and slowly, without even noticing, you began believing something dangerous, that being broken was who you are now. But history tells a very different story. Some of the most powerful men who ever lived were not born strong. They were forged in ruin. Even Niccolo Machiavelli himself didn't write his most famous ideas from a palace. He wrote them after losing everything: his position, his reputation, his place in power. Exiled, humiliated, forgotten. And yet from that destruction he created The Prince, one of the most influential power manuals ever written. That's not luck. That's a pattern. Because when a man refuses to stay broken, he becomes something dangerous, something the world cannot control, predict, or manipulate. Today you will learn 7 ruthless lessons hidden inside Machiavellian philosophy, not motivation, not comfort, but principles used by men who turn pain into power. If you're ready to stop being the victim of your story and start becoming the architect of your future, let's begin. Pain is your greatest teacher. Every man eventually faces a moment when life seems determined to break him. It may come through betrayal, failure, humiliation, loss, or a series of events that strip away the confidence he once carried. In those moments, most people interpret pain as a sign that something has gone terribly wrong with their lives. They assume suffering is evidence that they are unlucky, weak, or somehow destined to struggle forever. But the deeper truth is far more powerful and far more uncomfortable. Pain is not simply an obstacle in your path. Pain is information. When something in your life collapses, it exposes truths that comfort once allowed you to ignore. It reveals the weaknesses in your character, the flaws in your decisions, and the people around you who were never truly loyal to begin with. While comfort hides reality behind pleasant illusions, suffering removes those illusions completely. It forces you to confront the world exactly as it is. Most men cannot tolerate that confrontation. Instead of examining their pain, they escape it. They distract themselves with endless entertainment, meaningless arguments, or temporary pleasures that numb the discomfort for a few hours. Others fall into self-pity, replaying their failures again and again until they begin to believe those failures define who they are. But the men who eventually rise above their circumstances react very differently. They become students of their own suffering. Rather than asking why life treated them unfairly, they begin asking a far more useful question. What exactly did this experience reveal about me? Where was my blind spot? What signal did I miss? What weakness allowed this situation to happen? This mindset transforms pain from a punishment into a form of training. History repeatedly shows that men who develop extraordinary strength rarely lived easy lives. Difficulty forces growth because it removes the comfortable habits that once allowed weakness to hide. When pressure increases, character becomes visible. Under stress, your true level of discipline, patience, and emotional control is revealed. In that sense, hardship functions like a forge. Steel is not created by leaving metal untouched. It becomes strong through intense heat and repeated pressure. Without that process, it remains soft and easily broken. Human character works in a similar way. Every difficult experience is shaping you in one of 2 directions. Either it hardens you into someone wiser and stronger, or it convinces you to retreat into fear and bitterness. The event itself does not determine the outcome. Your response to it does. When you begin to analyze pain instead of running from it, you gain something most people never develop: clarity. You start to recognize patterns in your decisions and behaviors. You see where you trusted the wrong people, where your judgment was clouded, and where your preparation was insufficient. That level of honesty can be uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly powerful. Once you understand the true cause of your setbacks, you gain the ability to change them. What once felt like chaos becomes a lesson. What once felt like destruction becomes a blueprint for rebuilding. The most dangerous men in the world are not those who avoided suffering. They're the ones who studied it so carefully that they refused to repeat the same mistake twice. Silence. is the most powerful strategy. In a world where everyone is constantly speaking, explaining, arguing, and trying to prove themselves, silence has become a rare and underestimated form of strength. Most people believe power comes from dominating conversations, from always having the last word, or from making sure their opinions are heard in every situation. But those who understand strategy recognize a different truth. Every word you speak reveals something about you. It reveals your emotions, your intentions, your weaknesses, and sometimes even your fears. When people talk too much, they unknowingly provide others with a detailed map of how to influence them. They expose their plans before they are ready, defend themselves to people who were never interested in understanding them, and react emotionally to situations that should have been observed calmly. Silence interrupts that pattern. When you stop explaining yourself, people lose the information they rely on to predict your behavior. When you refuse to react immediately, others begin to question their own assumptions about you. In many situations, the individual who speaks the least learns the most, because while others are revealing themselves, he is simply observing. Observation is one of the most valuable strategic tools a person can develop. When you are quiet, you notice details others miss. You see who interrupts conversations, who constantly seeks approval, who becomes defensive when challenged, and who attempts to manipulate situations for their own benefit. These patterns become visible only when you are not distracted by the urge to speak. Another advantage of silence is emotional control. Many conflicts escalate because people react instantly. A harsh comment, a criticism, or an accusation triggers a response that is driven by pride or anger rather than logic. In those moments, the person who pauses and remains silent holds the advantage. While others are losing control of their emotions, he is gaining control of the situation. Silence also creates a certain level of unpredictability. People are comfortable with individuals they can easily read. When someone reacts in predictable ways, it becomes simple to influence their behavior. But a person who speaks carefully and only when necessary becomes far more difficult to analyze. Others cannot easily determine his intentions, and that uncertainty naturally commands a different level of respect. This does not mean silence is about being passive or avoiding communication entirely. Strategic silence means choosing your words with precision rather than speaking out of habit. It means recognizing that not every opinion requires a response, and that not every situation benefits from immediate explanation. In many cases, silence allows actions to speak more clearly than words ever could. When someone constantly announces their plans, they create expectations that may never be fulfilled. But when a person works quietly and allows results to appear naturally, the impact is far greater. Achievements carry more weight when they arrive without constant advertisement. Silence also protects your focus. Conversations filled with unnecessary drama, gossip, and emotional reactions drain mental energy that could be used for more important purposes. By speaking less, you create space to think more deeply, plan more carefully, and act with greater clarity. Over time, this habit changes how others perceive you. People begin to listen more closely when you finally decide to speak, because your words are no longer lost in a flood of constant noise. They understand that when you say something, it likely carries purpose and thought behind it. In a world full of voices competing for attention, the person who masters silence gains a powerful advantage. While others reveal themselves through endless conversation, he gathers information, maintains control, and moves forward with a level of awareness that few people ever develop. Master your emotions before they master you. One of the greatest battles a man will ever fight does not happen in public. It does not happen in a competition, a workplace, or even in conflict with other people. The most decisive battle takes place internally, in the space where emotions rise before decisions are made. Many men believe strength means suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. Others move in the opposite direction and allow every feeling to control their behavior. Neither approach leads to real power. True mastery lies somewhere in between, the ability to experience emotion fully without allowing it to dictate your actions. Uncontrolled emotions are one of the easiest ways for a person to lose power in any situation. Anger can push someone to say words they later regret or make decisions that damage relationships built over many years. Fear can cause hesitation at the exact moment when decisive action is necessary. Jealousy can distort judgment and create conflicts where none originally existed. These reactions may feel natural in the moment, but they also make a person predictable. Anyone who learns how to provoke certain emotions can manipulate the outcome of situations with surprising ease. If someone knows that criticism triggers your anger or that rejection triggers your insecurity, they can guide your reactions without you even realizing it. Emotional discipline breaks that pattern. The disciplined man creates a small space between what he feels and how he responds. In that brief moment of awareness, he gains the ability to choose his reaction instead of acting automatically. That pause may seem insignificant, but it changes everything. It turns impulsive reactions into deliberate decisions. Developing this ability requires practice. It means learning to observe your emotional responses rather than immediately expressing them. When anger appears, instead of reacting instantly, you examine what triggered it and whether responding will improve the situation or make it worse. When fear appears, you analyze whether the threat is real or simply a product of your imagination. Over time, this habit strengthens your control over your own mind. Instead of emotions controlling the direction of your life, they become signals that provide information about what is happening around you. Anger may reveal injustice, fear may reveal risk, and disappointment may reveal expectations that were unrealistic. But the disciplined man does not become a prisoner of these signals. He acknowledges them and then decides what action is most effective. This level of control becomes particularly valuable in moments of conflict. When others lose control of their emotions, they often reveal more than they intend. They expose their frustrations, insecurities, and weaknesses through words spoken in anger or desperation. The calm individual in the room sees all of this clearly while remaining composed himself. Because he is not reacting impulsively, he can evaluate the situation from a position of clarity. He can decide whether to confront the issue, ignore it, or redirect the conversation entirely. In many cases, simply remaining calm while others lose control gives him a natural advantage. Emotional mastery also strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably present difficult situations, rejection, failure, betrayal, and unexpected loss. A person who allows these experiences to dominate his emotional state becomes trapped in cycles of frustration and despair. But someone who can process those emotions without losing his sense of direction recovers much faster. Instead of seeing setbacks as personal defeats, he interprets them as information that can guide future decisions. He adapts, adjusts his strategy, and continues moving forward without allowing temporary pain to define his identity. The difference between these two mindsets determines whether challenges destroy someone or strengthen him. A man who cannot control his emotional reactions will always struggle to maintain stability in difficult circumstances. But a man who learns to remain steady in the face of pressure becomes far more difficult to disrupt. Over time, people begin to recognize this stability. They see that criticism does not provoke him, that pressure does not break him, and that praise does not distract him. His behavior remains consistent because it is guided by discipline rather than emotion, and that consistency creates a reputation for strength that no words could ever establish on their own. Choose your circle with ruthless awareness. One of the quiet forces shaping every person's future is the company they keep. Many people underestimate this influence because it works slowly and almost invisibly. Yet over time, the people around you shape how you think, how you act, and what you believe is possible for your life. Human beings naturally adapt to their environment. The attitudes, habits, and expectations of those closest to you gradually become normal in your mind. If the people around you constantly complain about their circumstances but never take action to improve them, that mindset eventually begins to feel acceptable. If they settle for mediocrity and avoid challenges, you may begin to lower your own standards without realizing it. This process rarely happens overnight. It develops through thousands of small interactions, conversations, and shared experiences. Over time, the beliefs of your social circle start to influence the decisions you make. The ambitions you once had may seem unrealistic simply because no one around you shares them. Because of this, the people you allow into your inner circle play a critical role in shaping your trajectory. Some individuals bring energy that pushes you to grow. They challenge your ideas, encourage discipline, and hold you accountable when your actions fall short of your potential. These people may not always agree with you, but their honesty strengthens your character and sharpens your thinking. Others create the opposite effect. They may appear supportive on the surface, but their behavior subtly discourages progress. They may mock ambition, minimize your achievements, or express skepticism every time you attempt something new. In some cases, they disguise their negativity as realism, suggesting that your goals are unrealistic or unnecessary. Over time, that constant negativity can drain motivation and create doubt. Even strong individuals can begin questioning themselves if they are surrounded by people who repeatedly undermine their confidence. Another dangerous influence comes from those who offer constant praise without honest feedback. While encouragement can be valuable, excessive flattery prevents growth. When someone tells you everything you do is perfect, they remove the opportunity for improvement. Real allies are willing to point out mistakes and challenge your thinking because they genuinely want to see you become better. Learning to recognize these differences requires careful observation. Not everyone who smiles at you supports your growth, and not everyone who challenges you intends to harm you. The key is to pay attention to patterns over time. Ask yourself how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel energized, motivated, and focused on your goals? Or do you feel drained, distracted, and uncertain about your direction? The answer often reveals the type of influence they have on your life. Protecting your circle does not mean cutting off everyone who disagrees with you. Diverse perspectives can be valuable, and constructive criticism helps refine your thinking. But there is a difference between honest disagreement and constant negativity. The goal is to surround yourself with individuals who encourage growth, accountability, and progress. These are people who respect discipline, value improvement, and take responsibility for their own lives rather than blaming circumstances for every difficulty. Building such a circle may require distance from certain relationships. This can be uncomfortable, especially when those relationships have existed for many years. However, personal growth often requires difficult decisions about where to invest your time and energy. Time is one of the most limited resources you have. Every hour spent with someone influences your mindset in subtle ways. Over the course of months and years, those influences accumulate and shape the direction of your life. By choosing your circle carefully, you take control of one of the most powerful forces affecting your future. Instead of drifting toward the average mindset around you, you intentionally create an environment that encourages discipline, ambition, and continuous growth. In the long run, that environment becomes one of the strongest advantages a person can have. Never reveal your next move. One of the most common mistakes people make when pursuing success is talking about their plans long before those plans have become reality. They share every goal, every strategy, and every future ambition with anyone willing to listen. At first, this feels natural. Speaking about your plans can create excitement and even bring temporary encouragement from others. But there is a hidden danger in revealing your intentions too early. When you constantly announce what you are about to do, you invite opinions from people who may not understand your vision. Some will doubt you, others may criticize your approach. Even well-meaning individuals might question your ability to achieve the goal you describe. These reactions can plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind, especially during moments when motivation is already low. Beyond that, talking too much about future plans often drains the energy needed to actually execute them. When people describe their ambitions in detail, they sometimes experience a false sense of accomplishment. The brain briefly feels rewarded simply for sharing the idea, even though no real progress has been made. Over time, this can reduce the urgency required to turn plans into action. Those who achieve significant results often follow a different approach. Instead of discussing every step of their strategy, they work quietly. They focus on preparation, discipline, and consistent effort. While others spend time explaining what they intend to do, these individuals are already doing the work necessary to make their plans real. Operating in silence provides several advantages. First, it protects your focus. When fewer people know your plans, there are fewer distractions and fewer opinions competing for your attention. You can concentrate fully on improving your skills, refining your strategy, and solving problems as they arise. Second, silence allows you to move without unnecessary pressure. When expectations are announced publicly, failure becomes more intimidating because it feels like everyone is watching. But when progress happens privately, you are free to experiment, make mistakes, and adjust your approach without the fear of public judgment. Another benefit is unpredictability. People often try to anticipate the actions of those around them. When your plans are openly shared, others can easily predict your next steps. But when you reveal little about your intentions, it becomes far more difficult for anyone to interfere or compete directly with your progress. In many cases, the most impressive achievements appear sudden to outside observers. People see the final result and assume it happened quickly or unexpectedly. What they rarely see are the countless hours of quiet effort that made that outcome possible. This approach also shifts the focus from promises to proof. Words can create temporary interest, but results command genuine respect. When your actions consistently produce outcomes, others begin to pay attention regardless of how little you speak about your plans. Moving in silence does not mean isolating yourself completely or refusing helpful advice. Guidance from experienced mentors can be valuable, and collaboration often accelerates progress. The key difference is intentionality. Instead of sharing your goals with everyone, you choose carefully who receives that information. Ultimately, the strongest statement you can make about your ambitions is not a speech or announcement. It is the moment when the work is finished and the results are undeniable. At that point, explanations become unnecessary. The evidence speaks for itself. Master the power of patience. Modern culture worships speed. Everyone wants immediate success, immediate recognition, immediate results. But impatience destroys strategy. Many people fail not because they lack ability, but because they move too soon. Strategic patience means understanding timing, knowing when to act, knowing when to wait. A patient man studies the environment. He watches patterns unfold, and when the perfect moment arrives, he moves with precision. One well-timed move is often more powerful than 100 rushed actions. Reinvent yourself completely. At some point in life, every man faces a choice. Stay loyal to the person he has always been, or destroy that version and rebuild something new. Many people stay trapped in their past. They define themselves by their failures, by their mistakes, by their pain. But identity is not fixed, it is constructed, and what is constructed can be rebuilt. Reinvention requires courage. You must abandon habits that once defined you, leave environments that no longer serve you, release the version of yourself that kept you small. Growth demands transformation. The strongest men in history were not consistent. They adapted, they evolved. They became something entirely different when the moment required it. The untouchable mindset. Becoming untouchable is not a single achievement. It is not a destination. It is a mindset, a daily decision to remain internally strong no matter what happens externally. An untouchable man still faces enemies. He still experiences failure. He still feels pain, but none of those things control him. His pain becomes instruction. His failures become refinement. His enemies become motivation. He remains the author of his own story, and that level of internal sovereignty makes him impossible to break. Because the most unstoppable force in the world is not a man who was never damaged. It is a man who was broken, studied the ruins, and rebuilt himself into something stronger.